What's up everyone? What is happening? Today I'm going to build, review and this 1/72nd scale Char B1 from Trumpeter. So let's crack open the box, I guess. Okay. That's not so many parts, that means they should go pretty fast. Also, take a look at the rivet detail on the hull. I just love it. Let me start by saying that I won't bore you with footage of me gluing wheels and stuff together. I'm gonna focus on what I think needs attention if you want to play with this kit a bit more than usual. First glaring issue are these towing eyes, mounts. The point is, there should be towing hooks in them, but they are missing, so I think it's appropriate to at least add the axles. So I started by marking out the center of each axle end. Then I drilled them out all the way through. Then I removed them, because I don't need them anymore. And I added the axles made from 0.5mm copper wire. Boom! Then I just finished them off with end caps punched from plastic sheet. I think their diameter is 1mm or something along those lines. Let's now put the hull together and see how it fits. Looking good. Oh.
No! God! No! No! No!
Dissolved putty to the rescue. This is Tamiya putty mixed with Ganze Mr. Cement S, by the way. I brushed it into the gaps until they sort of disappeared. Yeah, I think it's quite passable. Nothing spectacular, but okay, I guess. I did the same on the back just for good measure. Also, the tracks suck. It's impossible to glue them with anything except super glue. But at least the details are nice for what they are. These knobs or pin marks or whatever have to be removed, so watch out for them. I decided to attach them to the tank with super glue again, so I can make them sit on the sponsons or whatever they are. This way they will look like there's some weight to them and you can even create some slight sag. Then I used the bonder to remove the excess super glue. You will see me using this thing a lot in my builds. It dissolves any super glue without damaging the plastic, and I think it's a must-have if you work with super glue and, you know, if you would like to have your builds clean. I also wanted to soften the flash marks on the tracks by brushing some diluted putty. It worked like for a few hours, then it started falling off. That means nothing will stick to those bad boys, not even paint, so yay. The gun mount was cast steel, so I gave it some texture. I also used the putty to fill the gaps between the hull and the mount. But I will rework that later, as you'll see if you keep watching and hit that subscribe button and like the video. I also drilled a few holes into the mount, again following reference pictures. Small details like this are easy to make and the model looks much better. It's always the little things. Another hole was needed for this, I don't know what it is, some hook or something. Point is, it has to be there and it's missing in the kit. The driver's vision port is completely fictional. At first I wanted to leave it like that, but then why would I do that? So yeah, it was time to fire up the heavy tools. You must be very careful with this stuff. The rest of the board was sliced off with hobby blade. And chisel. I destroyed a few rivets, but I was expecting that. No worries, I will make new ones if you keep watching and hit the subscribe. So then I just cleaned everything with cement and marked out the vision port. Punched in the holes and drilled them out. Then I connected them by scribing a thin line. This was quite a fiddly job. The line was enlarged with Tamiya scribing tool and opened up with a hobby blade. Bloop! Now I just simply added the new armor block. It's not exactly how it should look, but it's better than the original part, so yeah. And then I gave it some texture because it's a cast part. What I did next was to remove the rivets around the gun mount and scratch build new plating from copper sheet. I then added new rivets punched from tinfoil. This process is hard to film, but I will try again next time, maybe. Next I sliced up the fenders because they looked too perfect. You must be again careful with the incisions so you don't damage them. Then I thinned their ends by removing plastic until I got a more in-scale thickness. I know, making them from copper sheet would be much better, but I felt lazy. The result is still quite okay, if I do say so myself. I also added some minor damage to them so they won't look brand new. Then I simply glued them to the hull, one segment at a time. I think they look better with these gaps and small imperfections. Other small details were added, like this electric cable for the antenna, and these grab handles on the engine hatches. I also gave them some texture to differentiate them from the rest of the hull. This square cover, or whatever, was made from copper sheet. Here I'm marking out the bolt heads using the original part. Then I fixed it to the hull with super glue and also added some minor damage. And using some black super glue I added the bolts. Black super glue is awesome because it dries slowly and you can see it, so it's very easy to clean up with the bonder. I also wanted to rework the exhaust. I started by cutting lengths of copper sheet that will make the exhaust covers. I heated them up to make them soft and easy to bend. Then I cleaned and polished them with sanding sticks. And then I simply bent them over the original parts. Simple as that. The connecting part is also hidden under a cover, but it has more complex shape. Embossing tinfoil is best for these things. The process was again hard to film, but basically I forcibly bent the foil over the kit part with my fingers, then some more with toothpicks, and sanded it into shape. I should make a video about this technique in the future. Then I slightly peeled it off and removed some of the plastic underneath so I could add a few dents to it. I also added a few bullet holes, again inspired by the real tank. I mean tank, not a thing. Here you can see the original covers are still very visible, at least this one. The other one was slightly shaved off. They basically look like this. So after I shaved the other one as well, I glued the covers in place and added a few dents. Small details like this can make huge difference. It's funny that they are locating holes for the hooks on the back, but no hooks in the kit. But then again, even if they were, they'd probably be completely out of scale and hard to clean up, so I would end up making new ones anyway. The crew door was missing these large hinge parts. They were again cut from copper sheet, fixed with super glue and cleaned up with the bonder. And finally, the hull is done! So let's quickly finish the turret and get this over with. The turret halves don't fit properly as usual, so I glued them together very tight to eliminate the gap as much as possible. I also had to add the gun, so I quickly drilled out the muzzle and glued it in place. Now I filled the gap and also textured the turret. The remains of the gap worked in my favor because once textured, they look like a small seam line, which is present on the real tank as well. The truth is, cast parts are the easiest to work with because they are never perfect in real life. Then I simply polished the surface and also made a new coax machine gun from 0.5mm brass tube. And that's probably the last modification I made on this model. So I just finished it off by adding the remaining parts, and I also found a length of chain, because how can you have a Char B1 without chain hanging off its back, am I right? So with this model finished, I should conclude the video by saying if it's a good kit or not. Well, it's not great. Some parts are pure garbage, so you should consider that when buying this kit. And also, if you want to just build it the way it is, or play with it a little bit more, if that's your thing, I don't know. On the other hand, it's very cheap, like 10 euros, so it's the you get what you pay for thing, I guess. Anyway, thank you all for watching, I'll see you mates in the next one, and my final score for this kit is